Well, here at home, the federal Liberal cabinet will soon wrap its meeting in Ottawa after surviving a confidence test last night that saw Mark Carney get his first federal budget passed. Here's the Prime Minister on his way into that meeting earlier today.
Good day for Canada.
Yep.
I salute the 170 members of the House who supported it. I'm glad it came through, and we're going to continue to work on it.
So now, as we heard from the Prime Minister, the Liberal motion to approve the budget passed 170 to 168 votes. 2 Conservative and 2 NDP MPs abstained. Green leader Elizabeth May propped up the budget as well with her party's single vote. Let's get more now on the fallout from all of this from the CBC's Janice McGregor in Ottawa. Okay, so Mark Carney has his first budget through and the federal cabinet meeting wraps up. What are you watching for next?
Well, the main budget motion has passed, but that's not the same thing as the entire budget being implemented, and that's the road ahead. That will be the focus in the House of Commons after question period today. I'm just watching. It appears that cabinet meeting has started to break, so you'll interrupt me if any ministers favor us with some additional scrumming here. But one of the things that the Prime Minister talked about on the way into the meeting was that there are still votes to come. And what was he talking about? Well, on notice, as of last night, as of immediately, I guess, following their success in getting sort of this first budget motion through, is the actual implementation legislation. So the way it works, there is another confidence vote on a motion to introduce budget legislation. That is what will unfold this afternoon. Again, theoretically, because it is a confidence vote, you could see some drama, but everyone's cards are on the table now. People have sort of let it be known kind of where they are on this. So I don't think we expect the same stakes maybe after question period today on this vote. Nevertheless, still has to be taken with some seriousness. But after that, we will have in our hands the actual implementation bill for this budget. That's always interesting. Why? Because it tends to be a huge bill. Sometimes it's full of little Easter eggs, other stuff wedged in there that you wouldn't think is strictly about sort of economic policy or particular tax or spending measures or things kind of laid out in the big book. So we'll all have to kind of tuck in and look closely for that. But also there are inevitably laws, regulations, things that need to be changed. The way it's done, the nuts and bolts of it, the fine print, can be controversial, and it does open up a whole new world of negotiations, including probably at the Finance Committee, between opposition parties for various aspects of what's in this legislation on its way to becoming law. So this is the next chapter, kind of that opens up quite immediately, it turns out, moving at speed, as the Carney government likes to say. Sometimes we had big gaps during the Trudeau years between sort of the passage of the budget motion and the introduction of implementation legislation. Not so for these guys. Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne last night was sounding a little bit kind of subdued, conciliatory. Today, a little bit more partisan on the defensive, amid suggestions that he should have done more to maybe cut the drama and get New Democrats, for example, on side earlier. He said he does feel in this budget they have protected social programs that should have been important to them, but also noting that the labor movement supports a lot of the economic policy in this document, and he believes that's a reason for New Democrats to want to be on board. Although a New Democrat MP, Jenny Kwan, was in front of a news conference on another issue today and was defensive about the choices that her 7-member caucus made, with a couple of abstentions, of course, allowing the Liberals to continue to govern. But here's more from the Finance Minister speaking today, as well as the Government House Leader speaking today about the way forward for these budget policies.
Canada needs to meet the moment. That's what Canadians expect us. So I don't understand how some will explain to their own constituents how they would vote against things that province have been wanting, the labor movement have been wanting, businesses have been wanting, our military have been wanting.
The winners yesterday were Canadians, and we're obviously very
But surely this is not a comfortable place to be. You had to get abstentions to get your budget through.
I have very good advice for everyone. If you want to be comfortable, don't enter federal politics.
especially in a minority parliament. Some relief, perhaps, but everyone realizes, I think, sort of that there's a lot still to go for these budget measures. Minister Champagne saying that he is not going to join Mark Carney on his trip to the United Arab Emirates, was to be flying out late this evening. In fact, he's going to stay back and be there to shepherd a little bit more of this stuff through sort of some of the House of Commons stages, which gives you an indication, I think, of how active these negotiations are, and frankly, how chock full of different things this legislation might be when we're getting our hands on it this afternoon.
And Janice, of course, as we continue to watch the next steps with the budget, we know that this hour the Prime Minister is set to take part in a welcoming ceremony for the King and Queen of Sweden, who arrived in Ottawa for a state visit. Their delegation includes some key Swedish business leaders. And to that end, we've heard from the industry minister, who's been speaking about a proposed deal being discussed with Sweden during this visit. What do we know so far?
Yeah, defense procurement's always complicated, but don't be fooled by the pomp and circumstance that you're going to see with this visit by Sweden's king and queen. There's a whole lot of economic strategy going on below the surface, and a lot to do with the defense and the industrial partnerships between the two countries in this kind of fraught geopolitical moment. Mark Carney, I'm told in private, is going to be signing a strategic partnership with Sweden. The Swedish Prime Minister not on this trip, deputy is, but Carney will be adding his signature to this agreement to move forward. What we're watching for next, though, is whether there are actual large business deals. One of the CEOs on this trip, the head of Saab, of course, the manufacturer of the Gripen fighter jet, now part of a very active conversation as far as the future of Canada's fleet is concerned. Mélanie Joly, industry minister, was talking about how Canada is reviewing whether it is going to purchase additional F-35s beyond sort of the first 16 about to be delivered. That was something they decided to hit pause, think twice about, review. It might be affected by sort of where Canada's orders are in the queue if a bunch are going to Saudi Arabia, as you were just discussing with Hillary there. But here is Mélanie Joly on the future of this and how this might fit in with this now new proposal from Sweden to build some jets here.
Well, what I've said is I don't believe that we've had enough jobs created and industrial benefits done out of the F-35 contract. I think it's not enough. I think Canadians expect more, and we should get more. So that's my first point. And second, when it comes to the Gripen, of course, we're really interested in seeing what can be done because there was an unsolicited bid that came up. 10,000 jobs is indeed a very interesting offer.
You might be saying 10,000 jobs, that's a lot. Part of the proposal is perhaps for some Gripen fighter jets for Ukraine to be manufactured here in Canada with Canadian facilities, Canadian partners.